This exercise, we're going to learn how to do the grading around the perimeter of the tower yard using linear templates. So what we want to do is create some 6:1 slope grading around our tower yard here, and we're going to do that using the linear template tool. And the linear template tool is used to apply a template from the template library along any civil geometry elements. Now, in order to apply the linear template, the civil geometry must have a profile associated with it. So all of our geometry that you're using so far does have a profile. So we're going to use the linear templates to do some grading around our site here. So first thing we want to do is go up to our corridors here, and we want to load up our template library that has our grading templates in it. So I'm going to open up my ITL file here. So we have a site modeling ITL file, and this is our template library. It has all our templates in there. So I'm going to open that. And you can see I have a couple templates here that we want to use for our project. So this first one here is called EC Cut Fill 6:1, and this just has some 6:1 cut and fill slopes here. So you can see I have a component here for 6:1 and another component here for 6:1 for when I'm in fill. So we want to take this template and we want to apply it to our geometry in our file. So I'm just going to close this, and we're going to go over and show you how to apply that template to our geometry. So what we want to do is we want to apply that template to the perimeter of our tower yard here so we can get our 6:1 grading around our site. So to do that, we're going to go up to Model Detailing. We're going to go to Apply Linear Template. We're going to select this, and it's going to prompt you to locate an element to apply the template to. Well, we want to apply our template to our tower yard element here, so I'm going to select that. Then it's going to prompt you to select a template. So I'm going to press the Alt and down arrow on my keyboard. It's going to bring me over into the template library here. And you can see once I'm in the template library, I have the ability to select any template that exists. So I want to use this EC Cut Fill 6:1 template. So we want to apply that to our tower yard geometry. So I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to left click to accept. And then for my starting point, I'm just going to press the Alt key to lock into the start station. So press Alt on the keyboard. And then for the ending station, once again, I'll just press Alt on the keyboard, lock in the end station. And then for the reflection side, you have the ability to reflect the template either to the inside or the outside. So we want to make sure that we move our cursor to the outside so the template's placed around the perimeter to the outside. So I'm going to left click to accept that. And you'll see the temporary graphics are displayed there showing the perimeter of the linear template. And we're going to left click to accept the external sweep angle. And then for description, we can just key in 6:1 grading, whatever you want here, doesn't really matter. We're going to left click to accept, and it's going to go through and it's going to place the grading inside of the 3D model here. Okay, so you can see there's some grading that was drawn in the 3D model. And if I change my display view here to something, let's say like illustration mode, you'll see the 3D mesh and the components show up a little bit nicer. So let's change that to illustration, ignore lighting. So you can see some nice grading there around our site. Now in addition to that, there's also some 3D features that get created, and we want to use those 3D features to add to our terrain model that we've created over here. So let's go ahead and do that so we get a more complete terrain model that adds in our grading features. So you can see here I got a construction limit feature around the perimeter of our site, so we want to add that to our terrain model. So to do that, we'll go up to Terrain, and we'll go to Add Feature, our feature management here. So I'll click Add Features. It's going to prompt us to locate our terrain model. So we can come over here, locate our terrain model, then locate our construction limit feature, select that, then reset when you're done. And we're going to create this as a boundary since it's going to be the perimeter of our site at this particular time. We have other options that we can use for adding the feature type to the terrain. I'm just going to create this one as a boundary for now. And we're going to left click to accept. And then now you'll see the terrain model updates, and now the that construction limit feature has been added to our terrain, and now you can see the contours are updated, and we have a little bit more complete terrain model of our project. Before we continue designing the site, let's take a quick look at analyzing our cut and fill volumes between the existing ground terrain and the tower yard terrain. we have a tool that can analyze the volume between the existing ground terrain and the tower yard. So we'll do that by going up to the terrain tools here. So we go under terrain, we go under analysis, and you'll see we have an analyze volume tool here. So when this comes up, we have the ability to analyze the volume between two different terrain models, or we can also analyze from a terrain model to a plane. So our method that we want to use is terrain model to terrain model volume. So we're going to set that to terrain model volume. It's going to ask us to locate the from terrain model. So that's going to be your existing ground. So we'll select that. Then it's going to prompt you to locate the to terrain model. And that's typically going to be your proposed terrain. So I'm going to select my tower yard terrain over here in the 3D model. So select that. And then we have the ability to put in cut and fill factors, and this is for like shrink and swell factors, those type of things. We're just going to leave this set for 1 for cut and fill. Then we can also place a boundary around it if we want to. I'm just going to right click to reset for none. We're not using a boundary. And then we have the ability to save the results to the screen as graphical text. So I'm going to select this and say yes to save the results. I'm going to left click to accept. And you'll see it attaches some text to my cursor here showing me the cut and fill volumes. So I'm just going to place that graphically in my file there, and you can see the values there in cubic feet. And now what we can do is if we want to optimize our site or reduce the amount of fill that we have, we can go back and adjust our profile of our tower pad. Since all this was rules based and the terrain is a dynamic rules-based terrain, any adjustments we make to the geometry is going to update the terrain automatically. So if we just go and make a simple change to our tower yard profile or our tower pad profile, let's take a look at this real quick. We have our tower pad profile here, and you recall previously when we created this, we created it 4 feet above the existing ground. And if we want to change that, we can just simply change it by selecting the dynamic text here. So I could change that to 1, or if I want to balance the site, I could change it to something different. Let's just make a simple change there, and you'll see that the terrain model will update with any change that you make here. So let's change this quite drastically. Let's make this to 0, like a 0 offset. So watching the 3D view, you'll see the terrain model changes. We change it back. Go to properties here, change it back maybe to say 3 feet. And you'll see the terrain model update. So you can see it's all rules based, it's all dynamic, and we can use this to help balance the site if we need to.